Hello and welcome to an overview of marketing with Facebook and Instagram. Today this view might look a little bit different, and that is because I am trying something new today. That would be with the actual new recording option within PowerPoint. So we'll see how this goes. I'm going to be in the corner. If you see me looking up, it's because the actual slides are on my screen that are up above. So let's give it a whirl. All right, so in the textbook that I used to use in this course and in my undergrad course, what I had were two chapters. There was one on Facebook and one on Instagram. Today I've combined them into one set of slides. When I am looking at the actual slides here, I've combined the section on advertising, and then I also went ahead and have a couple of slides here at the beginning because they are owned by the same company. That is Meta. Okay, so let's start with building an audience. This really applies to a lot of different social networks, but let's begin with Facebook and Meta, Facebook, Meta properties, Instagram as well. There are really 5 key points when it comes to more so even Facebook than the others, but really I look at brands organically growing on social media as needing to be doing more than just sharing their own stuff. So one, build the audience if you're starting from scratch, sharing all of your platforms with your own network. Then being sure to optimize your actual profile, I would say. That includes the description, what is the about section, the actual handle name, and then the display name, things like, I won't go through all of that in this today, but that's a big part. And then you have the actual content, right? That is where you can have some strategies about, hey, do I have some contests or promos to build a following, build some engagements? Perhaps I can leverage some advertising, which is a really big one, especially in this day and age, but more so than anything else, create shareable content. Content that is shareable, that people will not only like, but they will also want to share with their own networks. All right, so let's start with Facebook. About a third of the slides are on Facebook, a third of the slides are on Instagram, and then the rest are on advertising. A couple more slides on Instagram, I would say. Today, though, starting with Facebook, this is the world's largest social network today. It has held this distinction now for about 18 years, I think. Facebook bypassed MySpace when I was in college. So undergrad, or maybe I was in high school. And today we have seen the surpassing of 3 billion monthly active users. Think about that number. Now, you probably can't see this super well, but Facebook is number 1. They do have YouTube on here. That ranks number 2. And then you have Instagram, then you have WhatsApp too, another Meta platform. I'm not sure, I haven't really dug into WhatsApp as a social media platform, but it's there. And then you have the other ones, TikTok, WeChat, which is not, WeChat and Telegram, not big in the US, and another Meta platform, which is just the Facebook Messenger. All right, so Facebook by the numbers, not a ton of crazy, unexpected numbers here, but if you were to look at all of this holistically and say, okay, what's the most shocking number? I'd say people think it's the largest age group, being 25 to 34. Most people associate Facebook with being most popular with the older generations, like the oldest generation. That is not exactly true. They may be the loudest, they may be the most engaged, but if you look at actual users and actual people that log on, we're still looking at that 25 to 34-year-old age group as being number 1. Now, there's a lot that goes into this. Obviously, the definition of what that is a big one. I know personally when I'm on Facebook today, and this has been the case now for about 10 years, people my own age are just not really sharing a ton. No, I am not in the 25 to 34 age group anymore, but I'm also not in the 55 plus, right? I'm somewhere in between. And when I look at activity, though, I still see a lot of people in my age group and in that 25 to 34 that they are leaving comments. They are posting photos. And I will say a big part of this too is looking at how you can share simultaneously to Instagram and Facebook. That is an underrated, underreported metric. And a lot of times, I know for me, if I'm going to post anything really big onto Instagram, maybe it's like a birthday thing or holidays, family photo, I'm going to also share it to my Facebook page. So that's where I think a lot of the popularity comes from these days. Also, Gen Z, very popular here. They also love it for marketplace. So you look at Facebook, it has become a multifaceted platform that is not just for sharing your social updates, but also a lot of other stuff as well. All right. Here's an important piece that I think a lot of individuals don't think about, and that is, hey, shorter Facebook posts are a little bit better. Not super short, but 100 characters or less, and that is like what you see here. That's an example of what you see here. Hey, but it's better to have other content. Photos, like I talked about in my content presentation. Photos get higher engagements. Videos get higher engagements. GIFs get higher engagements. Memes, all that stuff. Anything other than just text usually helps. All right, the algorithm is key. There's going to be a slide on the algorithm both here and for Instagram. I think Instagram will have 2 slides maybe, I forget. The big takeaway here for businesses, because again, that's what we're really talking about today, that last one is really critical. I think most of these are pretty straightforward, right? You want content based on who engages with it. The posts that spread further are usually going to be those that get a lot of likes, comments, and shares, but really, that last point, critical. You know, you need something that's timely and relevant that is going to help you with that higher visibility. You can't actually see the word visibility because my photo is in the way, I'm just noticing, but you want timely and relevant stuff, not just because it will perform better, but because Facebook knows, Facebook doesn't index content based on hashtags. I don't think they ever have. I guess they did briefly about 10 years ago, right before they purchased Instagram, but now hashtags are kind of out of the equation for Facebook. Instead, you know, you don't need hashtags. Hashtags started, and this is relevant to the Instagram section of this too. Hashtags really started with Twitter around 2008, 2009, and it was a way for a computer program to recognize a topic. And it would create feeds based on those hashtags, which was formerly called the pound sign, for those of you who were around when they had phones in homes. And when I look at this now, you know, technology has moved way faster, and now it's just about the topics. Keywords are really critical. All right, Facebook content strategy. Big 3 points here. 1, you want to establish a voice. 2, you do need to be authentic. The first 2 sound like they could be, opposites, but really they flow together. That you want your brand to have a voice, but it needs to be an authentic voice. Those 2 can move kind of in tandem. Then also, you don't want to be too self-promotional. The companies that just promote their own stuff, that just talk about sales and products, those are the ones that fall flat. On Facebook, you need to be able to talk about other stuff that is compelling to people, that will get people to want to engage with your content. So when we look at content strategy tips, you want to be able to post at optimal times. If anybody got the textbooks, you know, if you do get the textbook in this course, the thing that has always kind of irked me is just how they list optimal times for different platforms, as if they are all universal. But really, you know, that doesn't really take into account the idea of time zones. You know, if you have an audience that's not in your time zone, you have to prepare for them. But then also, you know, people have different audiences online at different times. For me, I have found that my Facebook audience for the brands that I run, they're really just online at the end of the day. Whereas on Instagram, they are online in the morning and at night. And, it really depends on the user behaviors, what they're doing on Instagram. And also, when you think about, okay, when people are online, is that when you want to post, or do you want to post right before that? The jury's still out on that. From what I have found with Facebook and Instagram, as long as I'm publishing most of the posts in the morning, I'm fine. It's when I have posts that are later in the day that I actually don't do so well, and I don't really have a way to explain it, but that's where I have personally seen engagement trends. But there's all these other content strategy tips. I won't go through all of them. Pin posts, by the way, are those posts at the very top of your profile. That is on Facebook and on Instagram, where you can select posts from any time and have those permanently at the top of your profile, because then when people go to your profile, then they'll see those and not just the most recent. When I think about that, really, I use that area, the pin post, as like ways to explain the account, kind of like what we're there for, or if there's a post that went viral that you think people are going to be looking for. That's really what those are used for. A lot of these other things, we're going to go over emojis and going live and engagement, but there are a lot of different strategies that you can have for Facebook, but it all comes back to the goals, objectives, and metrics that you have. It all depends on what you're looking to do. When we look at engagement here, this is the most recent one I could find, but these are all really small numbers. Really small numbers. And we're talking less than 1%. Most of these less than 0.1%. This is the lowest percentage you're probably going to see across all social networks. Also, I'm going to say the craziest thing about this is that these all seem kind of high. I'm talking about pages here, not personal profiles. Obviously, that's different. But, the Facebook brand page is difficult to get off the ground. And sure, if you look at these in a comparative sense, yeah, images and videos are going to be better, right? That's kind of always how it is. But your total amount is 0.06%. That's stunningly small. Think about that. If you had 100 followers, right, that's an average of less than 1. If you had 1,000 followers, that's less than 6 people. It's just not much. And this kind of illustrates my broader idea with Facebook in terms of, what's a brand's use case on Facebook, and it is that organically there's not much there. I have a lot of slides on advertising because that's what most brands do these days. There is a case to be made for Facebook, but it's not a strong one. And yeah, I'm going to keep going through this, but just know of all the platforms. Facebook was one where I think a lot of companies saw a lot of success early. Now today, they are not seeing that same success. So with stories and reels, when you share a reel on Instagram, you can also share it to Facebook, which is what we see a lot of companies doing now. You can also post reels directly from Facebook, which is nice. These are really where you have the behind the scenes stuff and that exclusive stuff that you don't want available for everybody forever. You see all these topics, right? These are all short-term ephemeral things. You don't want these to be up for months because one, a deal or a discount gonna be outdated eventually. Then something like a Q&A or something with influencers, that stuff is timely and relevant, but it's a little too timely and relevant to be there all the time. All right, that's a good transition actually to Instagram. Here are the original facts. I don't remember when when Instagram launched in 2010, it was kind of without a ton of fanfare, but I will talk a little bit more about, I guess a lot of people that would be watching this are probably old enough to remember this, but for years before Instagram came around, a lot of people saw also with like photos on Facebook and stuff like, man, I wish there was a way where I could like show myself in a better light or put this photo in a better light. And it was really just Facebook and Twitter at the time. LinkedIn was there, but not really. That wasn't where you put photos. And MySpace, I remember I would upload a photo thinking like, man, this like is the best photo I have, but it kind of sucks. If only there was something I could do, it would look better black and white. And you had those tools, but that was Photoshop. And Photoshop was difficult to use. Very few of us could afford it. And if you had a really good photo editing platform, photo editing tool, like it wasn't going to work with social media. So it pretty quickly became this new idea that on Instagram, what if we could bring these basic editing and filters to social media when you post them. And Instagram launched with a base catalog of like a dozen different editing options. You had black and white, infamous Valencia, Xart, a couple different ones, sepia, gives you like that old faded tone. And really quickly it picked up. It sounds like today it sounds pretty slow that it took them 2 years to amass 30 million users, right? Because the big ones today take like a day, or as we talked about before, Threads took 2 days or whatever, it reached 100 million. But when you think about here, Instagram is getting to the point where it was purchased by Facebook in 2012 for $1 billion, but Instagram was, for the first several years of its existence, as the place that you could put a filter on photos so that you didn't have to use Photoshop. It had the same effect. Today there's 2 billion plus active monthly users. 200 million active businesses is really crazy. I did not realize that number was so high. 100 million photos uploaded per day. That seems pedestrian, actually, compared to what you see. As a statistic, my classic statistical page here, I did want to include the map. US is not number one in terms of Instagram users. Largest age group, again, 25 to 34. Interestingly enough, if you can see this, the male side, there's actually more male users now than female. That was not the case for a while. And 16 hours per month, time spent per month, that's tough. I would have thought it was more than that, but again, these are averages. A lot of times you have to consider a lot of people that barely ever log in. When you're marketing with Instagram, interestingly enough, from a brand's perspective, 90% of users follow a business. And hey, half of the people are more interested in a brand when they see ads for it. Surprisingly enough, I actually would argue it's more than that, but there's a pretty solid use case for having your brand on social media. Now, today, there are 3 types of accounts on Instagram. There's the personal account. That's what you just create for yourself. There's the creator account. That's for the person who wants to be a creator. All right, you get some additional tools. And now you have the professional business account. That is what all of this is about. Really surprisingly, the top 50 global brands post an average of 5 times a week. I don't know if that includes posts and stories together. I think that might be both. And hey, 75% of users will take an action like visiting a website after looking at a brand's post. That's really shocking. That shows an incredible power to move people through the AIDA funnel, as we talked about in my last video. And it's really, it's just a nice tool to have at your disposal for social media. It's also the highest follower interaction rate among all platforms. So if you think about Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, Pinterest, Twitter, X, all that, Threads, this is number one in terms of how many, if you look at the followers that you have, right? You have 10,000 followers. You're most likely to get a higher percentage of those people to at least interact with the post than any other platform. So when you think about an Instagram business account, the number one advantage is all these analytics, but then also the advertising, connected to Meta Business Suite, which I'll talk about in a minute. That second slide, really critical because it gives you insight into when your followers are online. Really important, and per day too. The professional dashboard is interesting. Really easy to look at, easy to understand, professional insights that shows you not only the accounts you've reached, but also the engagement rates, and also how many people are seeing not just your posts, but also your stories. Having those advanced story analytics can really help, and that was something that was not around until the last 5 years or so. Really good things that you have here. And this is, again, I think this dashboard was actually created in 2021. And also there's some educational resources that you have there. Also, you can look at the different types of content, what's doing well, and then you can promote your own content. I think you can see it on here. Let's see. No, I don't see it on this slide, but there is a way to quickly and easily from the dashboard start boosting posts. One thing about advertising and boosting posts within the dashboard and the native app itself is you are limited in the budget and how long, the amount of money and the amount of days that you can boost a post. Plus, if you're on the iPhone, Apple will take a cut. And so Instagram has long recommended that you do any ads through an actual computer in the ads manager, the business suite. And it's not because they think you're going to spend more money. Well, I guess technically it is. It's because they want you for all of your money to go to the ads and not for Apple to take a cut. All right. I think most of us here have used Instagram before, but I'm just going to quickly run through this. Right. There's photos. 93% of buyers cite visual appearance as their main reason for purchasing a product. I'm right there with you. I'm one of them. And as I mentioned before, Instagram offers these visual filters to turn everyday photos into art. You see even more now, especially with the AI stuff. I have a slide on that later. Other piece on Instagram here is, you have all these filters now, but now you can customize them. You can do all sorts of things on Instagram and really make it look like art. And really, this is the problem with brands, is that they don't think of it that way. They think of it as a repository to just put all their photos and their videos. Really, the brand needs to take on a persona, a living, breathing person. And that's what people need to think that the brand is. And for whatever reason, brands really struggle with, some brands are doing it tremendously. My favorite case study right now, Duolingo, they do it really well, but they have kind of leaned into it. Most brands struggle to do that. Not 100% sure why. Carousel posts. That is just multiple photos shared in one. Remember, the more engagements you get, the more likely it is that your post will reach a wider audience. And so with carousel posts, it's nice to have multiple options because then people can keep looking, and every time they look at a photo, that's another engagement. For video posts, that's the number one type of social media post that we talk about today, or not today, but all semester. And there's 4 different types of video now. You can just take a video right within the app and post it. You can take a video on your camera, a phone camera, and then post it later. And you can go live, right? We talked brief about that. You can just have a regular video post, like 16:9 horizontal. You can have a reel, which is the 9:16, that's the thing. You can put a video in a story. Lots of different ways. And now I'd like to introduce one new thing. This is called the Edits app. The Edits app is a brand new, it's essentially Instagram's competitor to CapCut and all the other video editing platforms that are out there, or apps. It's a very easy to use program. You can either take the video right within the Edits app or upload it, edit it right there, add your music, any effects. It's pretty much the same thing as CapCut. If you don't know what CapCut is, it's like imagine a video editing software, but in a smartphone app form. And then you can post it directly to Instagram and I believe Facebook right from there. I haven't seen this myself, but I have seen some posts recently that Instagram gives your videos a boost if you start them in the Edits app. By boost, I mean reach more people. I haven't seen that officially yet. I just started testing this recently, but hey, I think it's worth trying if you don't have another video editing app that you have like allegiance to. Then we have the captions on the Instagram posts. You can have up to 2,200 characters. That's a lot of words. Now there is a limit. I believe it's 500 characters if you want your post to also post to threads. I'm not sure. I'm guessing most people who watch this wouldn't do that, but I do it. Also, your post is gonna cut off. I think everybody knows this, but it's only after a couple lines of text that you get cut off because the feed is mostly about photos, not about text. So the key is to post the most important message first or the attention grabbing message first. You want it to be in the first, 50 characters or so. But also the entire caption is going to be indexed by Google, which is interesting. Now I've noticed too, like if you Google something, there is likely going to be an Instagram post related to that, especially if you have a phrase that you search. And if that same phrase is on an Instagram post, it'll appear. Usually not the number one search result, but it appears pretty quickly. All right, hashtags. Again, hashtags used to be the lifeblood of social media, and today it is slowly falling out of favor. Facebook has pretty much eliminated them. LinkedIn now uses it as a spam spam signal. Instagram, Twitter, and X, who knows? But on Instagram, they are still there. You just can't follow a hashtag feed anymore. That was a thing that you could do up until maybe less than a year ago. And you can still have hashtags on posts, and you can still use it to search for things. But there's a certain cutoff. Too many hashtags, 11 plus is where you start to get the spam signals. And there are hashtags that are no good. But also I do want to mention that, hashtags don't necessarily, I just want to clarify, hashtags don't actually improve your reach. They don't add impressions. They're just another way for people to see your content. So if you did hashtag, let's see, mobility in Michigan or something, or maybe not even that, hashtag mobility, and you didn't have that at all in your post, somebody who might have been searching for a post on mobility in California is likely to come across that if they search that or they otherwise click the hashtag mobility. So that's interesting. Think of it more as like adding context. But again, they have to be relevant because some of them are banned. A lot of the basic words have always been banned. I guess the ones that are listed here, there is a full list, but just think of it as you want major topics to be your actual hashtags. You don't want, or phrases. You don't want to hashtag every word. And then here's your most used hashtags. You can see there are some words, some basic words that you would think are going to be banned, like love, but I guess not. Obviously the brand, anything related to the brand Instagram is going to be fine. And yeah, some of these, maybe they do get banned. Again, I don't use hashtags very much anymore. For me, it's more about the broader content strategy, but then also making sure that I am explaining what's going on in the caption. Now that SEO, search engines are indexing these posts, it's really important to be factual and not to say anything too crazy, especially on behalf of a brand. Another thing, you cannot embed links in a post. You can't even do that in a paid post, although by default, the post is a link. So an organic post cannot embed links, but you can in your profile. So if you really want to use Instagram to drive traffic to your website, do something a little like this. They have a link, this Tensile company, they have a link to their sites, to their specific sale in their bio. They have link in bio. Hurry sale ends December 15th. Order by this date for guaranteed Christmas delivery. And they have a couple hashtags and an app. It's an influencer, user-generated content here. So again, no link in here, but they want to drive traffic to their site. So they put it in the bio, very easy to do, and then just tell people go click the link in bio. Instagram shopping. This is the hot new thing. This has been around since early pandemic. And really, this also really introduced the idea of social commerce. That is being able to sell products within a social media platform where there's a lot of discussion. Most recently, TikTok kind of took off with this. If you think about, if you've ever been to or seen the original TikTok platform, I think it's called Douyin in China. That is like, it's a social commerce platform first, interaction second. So what you see there is more people creating content around these products that they have purchased. Some of them go viral. Yes, there are plenty of things that still go viral without them, and yes, people still post without them. But TikTok, if you were to ask them, you know, they're trying to sell and move products. They're not necessarily just trying to add users, although I'm sure that's a big part. You know, if you were to ask TikTok who their number one competitor is, it would be Amazon. They want to use their platform to sell more things. Instagram is right behind it. Instagram has introduced this a couple years ago. Now there's all sorts. I will say it is not like, for example, on TikTok you log in and there's a shop and like it's a store right there. Instagram not quite as out loud with that. It is still very much, rather than an exploring, it's more about here's some brands. Not like think of TikTok. Think of TikTok as having an Amazon e-commerce platform within the app. Instagram does not have that quite yet. It might be coming soon, but right now that's not kind of how it works. Big things though. Places, brands, they can put all their stuff there. They can build out their product library there. But really the big win here is that you can check out right on the app. Instagram's number one thing is forever, just like all the other social networks has been, we don't want users to leave the app. We want to keep people on Instagram. But then they noticed that, hey, to get our ad revenue, which is most of Meta's revenue today, if we want to keep increasing this ad revenue, we have a contradiction here. Our number one goal is to make money, which we're doing through ad revenue, but then the advertisers, they want to get people off of Instagram over to their site. So why don't we bring the two together, build an in-app social commerce platform where advertisers can live, work, and play right there, even brands without ads. That's it. So they've done that. It's available here in the US, and there's a lot of options. So you have products, product tags, you can do product launching, you can use augmented reality, and augmented reality is like, I'm sure we've all seen a social media post where it's like, you'll see like logos rotating around someone's head, or like, which US president are you? And it's like all the presidents rotating and they stop, then it lands on somebody. Augmented reality is pretty much where you're looking at your screen, creating content, and then you see some other piece of content, like it can transform you into a taco, it can transform you into other things, change your background, all those, it changes. It's not virtual reality because you're not wearing the glasses, but it's augmented where it just changes it right there. But you can use those filters now. Snapchat was the first one to really use this. When I was in grad school, I wrote my capstone report on Snapchat's first use of augmented reality. They sold a 1-day AR lens to Taco Bell. Taco Bell paid $750,000 for it, where people could change their heads into tacos during Super Bowl Sunday. That's a lot of money, especially in 2016. It was extremely expensive. To this day, I don't know what the return on that was. I remember when I wrote my report on it, there were no numbers. It had happened like a week before. Taco Bell had just said it was really nice. X number of people used it, and you could take it from there and probably find out a way to increased brand awareness. But yeah, it was pretty wild. That's augmented reality. Other things, just like any other product site. If you've ever run an Amazon store, any e-commerce platform, you need product details, you need images, and if possible, you need those videos. Finally, you want to make sure that these things are easily discoverable, and you want people to understand, if these are right for them. So you want to encourage user-generated content. That's kind of the takeaway here. You want to encourage UGC, and you want people to by inviting people to tag the brand, take photos with it. You want to encourage what TikTok is already doing. All right, let's jump ahead to stories here. So if you didn't know what I was talking about with stories before, that's a post that you put onto Instagram, and it's only there for 24 hours. It appears at the top of your screen, the user screen, as something that people can quickly see. And again, this is a very quick thing, not meant to be really professional and like overproduced. The idea is that they're posted at a higher frequency than traditional posts. So if a brand posts something traditional every, twice a week per se, you could post stories 5 or 6 times. They're also popular for takeovers that happen, a handful of times in like a couple of hours to show an experience. Other times it can promote a post, hey, I got a new post, let's put it on the story. And yeah, behind the scenes, inside looks. You see this a lot with sports teams. Pro sports teams will have a ton of stories on the day of a game. NFL, NBA, especially those, Major League Baseball, where they'll get stuff either in the dugout and on the sideline, maybe really close, down on the field or on the court, in the locker room. The idea is to give you a level of access that you wouldn't get normally, but also sometimes it's a little bit unfiltered, so they want to keep it as a story. Live video, same as real, except you go live. Usually you need a little bit of a setup in your space. And from there, you do you broadcast live, you use it to do something. You definitely need a reason for it. Sometimes people use it for like a Q&A. Sometimes they're, as you can see here, like making something. I wouldn't use it for like far shots. Like, for example, I wouldn't recommend you go if, like, say you run social media for the Tigers, right? Maybe not go live for the whole game, like, as if you're broadcasting it. It's meant to be something that is for your Instagram audience. And then I couldn't really put a reel here, so I just say, hey, these are reels. Reels started on TikTok, the 9:16 vertical video. That trend started on TikTok. Short form video with a maximum upload time of 3 minutes. That was also something that Instagram lifted. If you go back to stories, for example, stories started on Snapchat, and then Instagram kind of copied it and was able to, now it's like a main tenet of Instagram. And now the same thing has happened with Reels. They took the TikTok style video format, dropped it into Instagram, and now it works. It's like a main type of content that Instagram promotes and that people post. So lots of opportunities there for brands. But again, it's not something that Meta necessarily originated. Finally, you can direct message people as brands. You can even set up a nice little script of back and forth, kind of like an AI chatbot. So you can do that. There was some research that said that connecting with a brand via direct messaging helped build trust, but that was kind of old. I'm not sure. Now it's kind of like you expect an automated response. Whether or not you're going to get anything is kind of up in the air. But yeah, if people message your brand on Instagram, you got to at least be checking it and have a strategy to address those. Now the algorithm. If there's one takeaway on this, it is that the number one thing that Instagram uses to really push forward your reach and your impressions, it's how many people are sending your post via direct message. If you've ever seen the post on Instagram where it's like, send this to somebody who likes coffee or something, they're creating that because they want sends via DM and they want to game the algorithm. So Instagram's algorithm is going to look at all the various engagements, right? Likes, comments, shares. Now there's reposts. But if you send a post in a DM, that's the number one engagement when it comes to a signal. So all of these various engagements all participate in these other rankings. What pops up in your feed, what ranks first on your story, what is first on the explore page, what's the first reel you see, what about when you search on Instagram? Those all have different little ranking systems that the algorithm is prioritizing various types of engagements. But I will say, in terms of everything, if you aggregate everything, and again, one thing to take from this slide, it's that if your posts are truly shareable and people are sharing them via direct message, that is the number one signal to the algorithm that your post is shareable, share-worthy, and should be shown to a broader audience. Lots of different points on the Instagram content strategy that can help you reach that. A lot of standard stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail here other than, hey, by the way, we're going to talk about influencers, that's a whole separate discussion. Yes, Instagram is huge for influencers and influencer marketing. I'm just kind of going over the nuts and bolts of the platform today, though. Finally, last piece on the content strategy. Here's that augmented reality thing, running contests. You want to create stuff that will get people to respond in some way. Okay. Stories. Stories and reels together. Let me make sure I'm on the right slide, by the way. Oh, yep. Kind of more of the same. This is the slide I wanted to get to. If you look at TikTok versus Instagram, where reels started on TikTok, Instagram is surpassed it. I've tested this along with YouTube Shorts, and I actually found that TikTok was the best for me. But hey, maybe not. The other thing that Instagram does that isn't mentioned here is if you are just trying reels for the first time, your first couple of reels will reach a broader audience. Like they will purposely send it to a bigger group, specifically because they want you to keep posting reels. And if your first reel only hits 5 people and you have 1,000 people that are following you, like why would you do it again? So they want you to keep doing it. So I will say, the first handful of reels may look better, but you may see diminishing returns if you are not employing some good content strategies that are driving engagement. A lot of interactivity here on the stories and the reels. You can put question stickers like this one here. You can run a poll. Those are all well and good. You probably don't think of it much as an individual user, but as a brand, these can really help drive use, engagement. Finally, appealing content, visually appealing content. You want to have something compelling that people want to look at more than anything else. That's just kind of my final appeal in a lecture full of tips, tricks, and best practices. Now, you can do that either taking legit good photos like NASA can, or you can try AI. Here are some steps you can test it out, see if you can generate some content and, see if it works for you. Meta's fine with you posting AI generated content that they create. It's going to say that when you post it. But again, it's not supposed to depict real people. Think of it more as a replacement for stock images. If you were going to have a brand photo that's meant to depict travel to wherever these women are, right? If it's more of a general concept, something like this is probably going to do better than a stock photo of, something similar. So that's kind of how I look at it right now, as long as you're not using it in any ridiculous ways. It's more of just to replace the boring stock images or maybe real photos that you have for your brand that really aren't great. All right, last section, and that's advertising. Hey, the way that Meta works, if you're not familiar, is that Facebook and Instagram, they are under the same portfolio along with WhatsApp and the Messenger. That's billions and billions of like 10 billion users almost, if you aren't looking at unique numbers, unique people, I should say. All of that is run through the Meta Business Suite, both organic and paid content. The Meta Ads Manager, that is part of the Business Suite, and through there, Facebook and Instagram ads are fully managed. You would originally, so the way you create the business account, you go to Business Center and you connect pages that you are already an admin of. So if you're an admin of a Facebook page and you have the login for an Instagram account, you can merge those into into the Business Suite. Then from there, you can run ads on both of them. So in terms of just what advertising is looking like for numbers, I mean, just go look at any of Facebook or Meta's quarterly reports, and you're going to see lots of revenue. Like a large percentage of their revenue comes from advertising today. I mean, you are looking at what is that? $160 billion in ads that people are running. It's pretty wild. And it's, substantial. If you look at Facebook advertising on its own, I mean, you have a reach of 2.3 billion people that you can reach more than a quarter of the entire population in the world. And what's another one that I wanted to share here? You just have 40% of all internet users on Earth can be reached through Facebook ads. Facebook ads, not Instagram. Instagram-wise, these numbers are just a little smaller. Facebook just has more people. But again, it's all dependent on when they're online and if they go online. Your monthly active users, that's someone who's on once a month. So it's about, to get the full advertising power, you got to have a global campaign. It's got to run for at least 30 days. And you've got to cast a really wide net, which kind of goes against a lot of advertising best practices, but that's really the only way to fully witness kind of like the power of meta advertising. When you are on the Ads Manager, you create a campaign. First thing they're going to ask you for is who's your audience. And there's all these different things. It is incredible how specific and niche you can get. You can get down to a zip code. You can look at voting districts, interests, all sorts of things. They're really based on interests, what people like, behaviors, what people do, and then demographics, which is just like location, your income, all these different things. That's all kind of under the detailed targeting. Custom and lookalike audience are where you can like upload actual contact information for an audience. I've never found that to work really well. I'm just finding that detailed targeting is much better. Retargeting is really what you would use for lookalike audiences, because you can take somebody who might have, you might have somebody's information who, I don't know, connected with you at an event, and you might upload them to an ad list or something. Again, it's very hard because the way that Meta does this is it tries to connect the information you upload to profiles, which very rarely connect. Here are some details on targeting. This says Instagram, but really it's for both of them, both Facebook and Instagram. I won't go into too many details here, but again, the takeaway here is you can get really specific. Finally, the last really key point. Ad objectives. after you go through and you have your audience, you're going to be asked for an objective. Hey, what's your campaign objective? Is it awareness? Is it traffic, engagement, leads, ad promotion, or sales? So the objective is what the brand wants people to do when they see the ad. What do you want someone to do when they see it? Awareness is just seeing the ad. That's it. Traffic is getting people not just to remember the ad, but then to come to your website or your profile. Engagement, you just want activity. You want likes. You want, RSVPs to events, things like that. Leads, like they have the Meta properties have an actual lead form that you can build out and put there. This would be more for B2B or for like large scale B2C operations. App promotion is all the ads that you see. They're promoting games, for example. That would make it where you click it and then it pulls up the app store for you where they can download an app that's already there. Then sales seems generic, but hey, I'm looking to sell product. This one, sales is the most generic sounding, also seems the most straightforward and businessy, but I would say it's the one that people use the least because, social media ads, yes, you want to use it for sales. And this would be good for like the Instagram shop, but if you're B2B or you're not selling product on Instagram, chances are you're not going to use sales. Usually what I use personally with all of my clients, it's been the first 3. Anything that I've done related to like elections, for example, like you can run election ads or like issue advocacy ads. You got to pass some checks to make sure you're real, but that's always an awareness play. Traffic is more of like websites that sell ads so that you can drive up numbers. So like journalistic sites, blogs. Engagement, that's just for pages that are trying to grow, really. Leads, more of like the B2B side, ad promotion or games, things like that. Lots of different ad formats. This is kind of the last section here. I won't go through every single one, but pretty much every form of content that you can imagine on Facebook or Instagram can be sold as an ad. Carousel posts, slideshows, stories, videos, collections, which are products. Messenger ads, playable ads, like that you actually play the game. And then Reels, right? Ads on Reels have become very popular today, especially since the beginning of 2025. Then you have Instagram ads, same deal. Regular image ads in the platform, that's still number 1. Ads and stories, I see some of those occasionally. Classic videos. Carousels, which again are multiple images. And then you have within the Explore tab, within a slideshow, in shopping, in Reels, and augmented reality. Those are all there at your disposal, and it really is, it opens up the world for your advertising strategies. So last bit here, the ad budgets, create all your ads. Last thing to do is set a budget. You can set a lifetime or a daily budget. From there, you can schedule it for days. That's really about it. You can also, if you click show more options there, you can tell it when not to run. So I don't usually have ads run in the middle of the night. Then when you're done, or not even done, as it's live, you can analyze your ads. These are just the 2 basic things that they show. There's placement on different platforms. You can look at where people are seeing your ads and then what their demographics are, specifically age range and gender. Up top to the right is comparing your major delivery KPIs. So if you're number 1, with budgeting, it asks you, okay, how do you want to get charged for link clicks? Do you want to get charged for conversions, which is separate for impressions? Whatever you set will then be compared to the amount that you spend, which is up there in the right corner. And that way you can kind of see your general ads performance respective to the money you're spending. I think this is a really interesting one because if you ever see a drop or an increase, that's then what tells you got to get in there and figure out what's going on. So yeah, that's about it. I was able to get this done in under 55 minutes somehow. There was a lot here, right? Facebook, Instagram, Meta overall, and advertising. So please feel free to reach out with any questions. I know this was a lot, and I am all done for now. Once again, this was all the Meta platforms advertising, and I look forward to next time.